Watch this.
The Department of Justice says a North Idaho church is being discriminated against by a North Idaho town. It says it's about protecting its public property, and they just want to talk about it. They don't need GPS, just instinct. Homing pigeons know exactly how to find their way home, from either 10 miles or 500. And in the Treasure Valley, that natural talent has become a sport. For a state that prides itself on potatoes, Idaho has quite a few cornfields, and some of them are being used for more than just feed. We're highlighting the longest-running corn maze here in the Gem State. State of Idaho going to court against the federal government isn't a new thing. From tribal lands to water rights to abortion laws. If it seems to happen more frequently recently, well, you're not wrong, because how often it happens does seem to depend on who's in charge in D.C. But a North Idaho town of about 1,000 people says they are now facing a federal lawsuit, one that was sought during the Biden administration, but was finally filed under President Trump's Department of Justice. It's a battle over how a controversial church wants to use space within that city. Church members call it religious discrimination. City says it's simply a violation of city code. Troy, Idaho would rather this be resolved outside of court. But as they told Joe Paris, it does take two to tango.
The response is in. The city of Troy, Idaho has filed their arguments to the federal government over accusations that they are discriminating a religious group looking to worship in their city.
And we have asserted a number of affirmative defenses and defenses. The city simply does not believe it's discriminating against anybody.
Todd Richardson is the city attorney for Troy. He has worked to explain that a rejection of a conditional use permit filed by Christ Church in Troy, an affiliate church of the one in Moscow, has nothing to do with religious beliefs or affiliations.
Since 1998, at least, I haven't found the comprehensive plans going before that, but since at least 1998, this 2-block section of downtown has been designated as a turn-of-the-century shopping district. And we're trying to make sure our zoning reflects that and keeps that. And so when a church wanted to come in and have a lot of activities, I mean, we're talking about 50 to 150 activities a year with between 50 and 150 people, and that's between 5 and 15% of the whole population of the town, 1 to 3 times a week, that overwhelms the zone.
I'm the owner of a building in Troy, Idaho, and I submitted a conditional use permit to allow my building to be rented by a church.
Matt Meyer is an elder within Christ Church of Troy, an affiliate church of the one in Moscow, Idaho. He saw the rejection of the conditional use permit as a violation of the Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act. We spoke with Meyer earlier this year, and he says there hasn't been an issue with the use of an event center in downtown Troy.
Things that were raised as critical issues never came to pass. There were no parking issues. There was no traffic issues. There were no problems with the neighborhood. There was no sound. There was no anything.
The city of Troy says the DOJ lawsuit filed this year seeks to invalidate their community-driven process and impose outside priorities on Troy's limited downtown area, the city's primary economic engine and heart of their small-town identity, they say.
All churches are welcome in Troy. We welcome them with open arms. We want people to come and make Troy home. It's a beautiful, wonderful, welcoming community, and we mean it. But we also want to have a 2-block turn-of-the-century walking business district.
Richardson says the city of Troy really wants to solve this outside of a courtroom, something that has been a challenge from their perspective.
It's certainly something we have been willing to talk to Christ Church about. They wouldn't engage. We've been willing to talk to Department of Justice about. They wouldn't engage. We're still willing to try to resolve this because there is a solution that will be best for everybody.
The city and their leadership want other small Idaho towns to see what's happening. They see this as big government encroaching on the smallest level of politics.
The frustration level that I have and the council has is really high when every time we say to DOJ, what is it you wanted us to change? And they said, we can't tell you. Well, how can we fix this if you won't share with us what you want fixed? Well, we can't tell you. Okay, then we're going to step forward. Oh, now we're going to accuse you in our complaint about changing it. Well, the RLUPA, the Religious Land Use and Incarcerated Persons Act that we're dealing with, it has a safe harbor. It has a provision designed for if you made a mistake, fix it, and the lawsuit goes away. It is designed on the federal level to push this back down to the low levels to fix it.
It all leaves a lot of questions for the leaders and the people of Troy that see this as government overreach.
Why won't the federal government talk to the local level and fix it? And is it that they don't know how to fix it? I don't know. Is it that they're looking for a win so they can put it out on a press release? I don't know. Neither one of those makes a good sense to me, because I'm sure they know how to fix it. And a press release, that's a lousy way to run a government. We need to have governments that work for the people, because they are supposed to be governments of, by, and for the people. A win for the city of Troy is pretty simple. We maintain a community, we maintain good relations with everybody in the community, and we bring them together for a resolution that works for the city of Troy. We're willing to work with them, we want to work with them, but it's got to be a city of Troy resolution, not a federal government resolution.
Richardson says they expect this to go to trial within the next 8 to 18 months. Their ultimate goal, though, is to still solve this at the most local level possible, and that would be a city council session. The church, by the way, has been allowed to continue to use the event centers in downtown in violation of the conditional use permit and code in the area. A solution, in the mind of the city of Troy leaders, would have the church using the former Troy High School, which is 800 feet from the disputed location and outside Troy's historic commercial district. Well, they've carried messages in wartime. Some of them are symbols of peace, and yes, sometimes they're the pests you just kind of want to shoo off a park bench. But for centuries, pigeons have also been champions of sport. Racing pigeons, that is, bred for speed, trained for distance, and revered for their homing instincts. As Hunter Funk explains, it's a sport that takes place in our Idaho skies.
Long before text messages and email, there were wings.
Come on.
Pigeons once carried words across the world.
For you to be able to send me a message, you would actually have to have one of my pigeons. And so if you had one of mine, and it's like they had them during the war, and they used them to send messages out. And what they would have is they would have a main loft somewhere, and they would take, how many ever birds with them that they could carry safely. And then they would turn those loose with the messages, and they would fly back to wherever that spot was.
But today in the Treasure Valley, they carry a different task, one that requires speed.
We fly races anywhere from 100 to 500 miles.
It's called pigeon racing.
I'm just now getting these loft trained to fly around.
And to understand it, we went to John Stockwell.
This is the clock that I use. It's actually hooked up to a couple of antennas out here on the landing board, and I'll just set it, and at least for training, and now it's ready to go for training, so I'll be able to know when they come in. We do something very similar when we do for races. We set it up and then we can track them.
Pigeon racing isn't new.
Pigeon racing in and of itself has been going on since the early 1800s.
In fact, clubs in Idaho trace back to the early 1970s. But to know about it takes knowing someone who does it. John picked it up as a teen, set it down for a while, then took it back up again nearly a decade ago. The sport works like this.
Load up.
Birds are loaded into
Load
crates.
Up. Come on, load up.
Driven miles away, then released all at once. The pigeons race back to their home loft. The first to arrive is the winner.
There's electronic RFID chips that are on each of the bird's leg. And they clock in on the system, and then we can take that and we upload all that into the computer, onto the internet, and we're able to calculate speeds based on the distance. We have the exact GPS coordinates of where they're released from, and we base it on yards per minute.
Training begins close, a few miles down the road.
As young birds, I'll put them on the landing board here. I get them used to trapping in and out and going in, and then they get used to loft flying here. And once they've done that, they actually do, after a time, they do what they call routing, which is that they'll actually let them out and they'll just take off and disappear for an hour at a time. And that's just them out trying to see what's going on in the world.
Then the distance expands, 20, 50, 100 miles away. Each release teaching them one thing: find the loft and never forget it.
I want my birds to fly 45 minutes to an hour, sometimes an hour and a half a day, depending on where I'm going and how far I'm trying to get them trained out.
Behind it all, though, is care. John mixes specialized feed, even checks the air quality before releasing the birds.
We get a lot of smoke and a lot of fires here in the valley, usually in the fall. We're trying to train out our birds, and I'm not going to waste and hurt my birds with bad smoke and bad air quality.
Idaho's Combine has about 30 members. Some are brand new young adults and families, finding the same fascination John once did.
My goal is I will give people birds if it will make sense and if it can help them get started. I just want to see more people get into the sport and to just enjoy it.
And like the birds themselves, the joy in pigeon racing always circles back.
I mean, I like to win. I don't win them all. It's just the way it is. But, you know, there's days, there's been races where I've actually rooted for somebody else to win because I'd rather they win. It's all part of, I don't know, it's all part of the fun.
That is not how I expected pigeon racing to go. Not really a spectator sport like I thought. We just sit there and watch them go, I guess. Well, the first 105-mile race of the season, that's happening at Blue Mountain. That's coming up on September 13th.
Everybody knows potatoes are the prime produce here, but this time of year we're reminded another crop has carved out its own tradition. We're getting lost in the legacy of the corn maze. Help us find out what you have to say about today's show. All you got to do is send us a text message, 208-321-5614. As always, make sure you include your name and the hashtag #the208. And if it's clean and clever and concise, well, we might show it at the end of the show.
You know, the dog days of summer may be behind us, and in fact, we may be on the tail end of the season, but it's still summer. Still, with the release of the pumpkin spice latte already, I guess it's not too early to start looking or taking a peek at fall. Besides, you can't have the fruits of fall without what happens during the summer. For example, you can't have a corn maze without growing a whole field of corn. Mazes of maize may be ubiquitous these days, all over the place, but none have been around as long as the one carved out by the Lowe family farmstead in Kuna. And we were there 28 years ago this week for their first ever stroll through silage. Here's John Miller with today's 208 Readout.
Dale Nixon never needed a stairway to get into his cornfield, not until the day Brett Herbst knocked on his door.
Oh, I thought it was a pretty crazy idea. Or maybe he was a little crazy.
Crazy to even ask, "Excuse me, Mr. Farmer, may I take a weed whacker to your cornfield?"
He actually told me to come back another day.
And Brett did come back, convincing Dale if we build it, they will come and maybe never leave.
There's actually 5 acres in the cornfield where the actual maze is cut out.
Brett designed the pattern on his computer and then...
And we just used a weed whacker with a saw blade on it.
Really?
And just went to town.
What are you gonna do when you get kids who get lost in this thing?
We're gonna leave them in here.
Of course, Dale's grandson proved a 5-year-old can make it through the maze in almost no time.
How long will it take to get through it for the average moron like myself?
It probably average about 40 minutes or so.
Were you kind of freaked out when you were cutting this thing that you might screw it all up?
Yeah, actually I was. And there was a couple places I kind of did make a mistake, but I was able to kind of recorrect them.
You can't replant the maze at that point, though.
That's right. That's right.
So, you know,
I think we just hit a dead end.
A dead end somewhere near the words Gem State. Notice how Brett cut a diamond below the word gem, enough to impress even Dale Nixon.
It's amazing.
It's Brett Herbst's amazing cornfield maze.
and if you get lost, somebody will come find you.
That's right. You just eat your way out.
John Miller, Idaho's News Channel 7.
Nearly 30 years. Yeah, Farstead's been around for quite some time, but it hasn't always been in the same location, as you probably know. For a while, it was by the freeway where Top Golf currently sits. Then it moved to a field by Mountain View High School. Then in 2006, the Lowe family officially took over the farm, and they moved it to an area on Meridian Road. Stayed there for a few years before it was moved back to a spot by the freeway. Then just a few years ago, 6 to be exact, 2019, the family moved the farm to Kuna, where it currently sits today. And the maze has featured multiple different designs over the years. It's grown too, 5 acres that first year, now up to more than a dozen sometimes. This one from 2009 showing a penny with, of course, Abraham Lincoln and his connection to the Gem State. That's fitting. That was back in 2009. That one looks pretty clean. You'd probably get lost in that one pretty easily. This one from 2018, 9 years later, showing Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head, famous potatoes. That one is pretty elaborate and pretty cool. So you can see how much bigger it was and more elaborate the designs became over the years. This year, we're looking on America's aviation history for the maze design. Carved in the 2025 cornfield at Lowe's is an iconic P-40 Warhawk airplane in full dress, complete with the signature painted on teeth and face there in the nose. You can see as they kind of pan out a little bit. So it's another elaborate cornfield that you can enjoy, which is pretty awesome. Get out there. The fall 2025 season at Lowe Family Farmstead, that begins September 13th and runs all the way to October 30th.
news from across the Gem State. And yes, we did wake up to some smoke this morning despite the cooler, wetter weather that moved across the region. Air quality today has been in the yellow across the Snake Plain. A couple of readings in the green for Idaho City and Sun Valley. And looking ahead to tomorrow, I do think we'll wake up to some smoke again that will start dispersing throughout the day. That will likely be the pattern. You'll see that haze is more noticeable early on, and then the skies will start to clear as the day progresses. So in the Boise area tomorrow, we should hover in that yellow or moderate air quality category. Couple thunderstorms still firing off mostly across far northeastern Oregon, trying to spill over into Washington County right now, but also starting to fizzle out to just some rain. And as expected, we do have some storms right along the Idaho-Nevada border. I don't know that those will make it into our viewing area, but if you're in Twin Falls looking south, you may see some ominous looking clouds for your Thursday evening. Here in Boise, mostly clear skies, 86 degrees, light winds. It is a gorgeous summer afternoon. It was beautiful this morning for liftoff of the balloons at Adam Morrison Park. I think tomorrow will be just as nice. But the rest of your evening looking nice and quiet. A few clouds moving in from time to time. Light northwest winds that will turn to southeasterly overnight. We'll dip into the 70s after our 8:26 p.m. sunset. And tomorrow we'll do it all again, except we'll tack on a couple more degrees of warmth. So waking up to a little bit of smoke in the morning, clear skies overhead. Will be around 80 by lunchtime, rising into those upper 80s to near 90 across the Treasure Valley tomorrow. These are the forecast highs to wrap up the work week. We'll climb into those low to mid 80s in the Magic Valley. Beautiful up in the mountains. Yes, a little bit hazy or smoky at times, but very comfortable. 80 in McCall on Friday afternoon, mid to upper 70s from Stanley out towards Haley and Fairfield. All right, I know the big question is, what does Labor Day weekend look like? And it is looking good. In fact, it'll be much warmer than is typical. Typically, we're around 87 degrees as we wrap up August and head into September. This year, we'll be in the 90s for Labor Day, and that's where we stay with sunny skies and calm winds all the way through next week.
Better weather meant balloons were able to get into the air from Ann Morrison Park this morning. And after this weekend, it's BYOB on the Boise River, as in bring your own boat or raft or tube or air mattress, whatever floats your boat. Labor Day will be the last day to rent one of those things at Barber Park. Richard Rodriguez has the rest of the details in today's 411.
The city of New Meadows has issued a public drinking water notice. In a memo dated today, the city says during routine water quality testing, they found trace amounts of chloroform bacteria. They say it's generally not harmful, but that it's outside the parameters of the required testing results for drinking water. They say additional tests have confirmed the absence of any threatening bacteria. The city is implementing a temporary low-level chlorination of the system, and they will be doing additional flushing of various fire hydrants. They say the water is safe to drink and use, but you may notice a slight chlorine taste or odor, which is not harmful, and that there is no need to boil your water. Crews are gaining ground on the rock fire burning near Tamarack. So far, it's burned nearly 2,800 acres and is now 42% contained. Reduced fire activity over the last few days has helped the more than 600 crews access new areas they were unable to get previously. It started earlier this month by lightning. However, no structures have burned. Trails in the Ridge to Rivers area of the Boise foothills are drying up nicely after yesterday's rain. Most of the trails are pretty good condition today. If you're a mountain biker, the dirt is considered hero dirt, meaning the soft and sandy spots have firmed up. If you're planning on using the trails today, be on the lookout for isolated areas of the trail, rutting, and blowouts, especially in the east foothills. After a soggy start to the first day of the Spirit of Boise Balloon Classic yesterday, the balloons inflated this morning and took to the skies. For 34 years, the Balloon Classic has brought hot air balloons from all over to Ann Morrison Park for 5 days of fun. Balloons will take off again tomorrow morning around 7:20, weather dependent. And tomorrow night is the Night Glow event. Starting at 4, there will be an interactive bounce houses, inflatable obstacles, and food vendors. Then around 8:45, balloons will stay tethered to the ground and light up the night sky. Float to Boise says after this long holiday weekend, services will close for the season. That means this is the final weekend to take advantage of the raft and tube rentals and shuttle buses. The final day to use these will be Monday. An estimated 150,000 people floated the 6-mile stretch of the Boise River since the flow season started on June 20th. That's despite it being the coldest flow season in 15 years. Right now, river flows are about 800 cubic feet per second, which means you should expect a 2 to 3 hour float time. and a reminder, floating is always at your own risk. That's the 411 on the 208. I'm Richard Rodriguez.
I believe this is the first time the 208 has gone up against a Boise State football game, which might explain our selection of comments for today. Very slight and very bad puns. That's what we're dealing with today. So I'm going to see if I can find ESPN on this TV. Until then, we will see you tomorrow.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app everywhere you stream.